Soon after finding out what happened to her father, Heather discovers that Claudia, the woman she met in the mall earlier,
You're late.
is responsible for his death. Claudia distracts Heather by throwing a monster at her and then telling her that she'll be waiting at Silent Hill,
In the town of Silent.
and she makes her escape. Once the monster is dead, Heather goes back inside to find Douglas.
I don't know what to say.
Then don't say anything. I'm fine, so just get out of here and leave me alone already!
Sorry.
Then go!
If it'll make you feel better, I will.
When I find her, I'll kill her myself.
When Heather says that she's going to Silent Hill so she can kill Claudia,
Revenge doesn't solve anything.
Maybe not, but that's what I'm going to do.
Douglas tries to talk her out of it, but he knows it's pointless, so he insists on at least giving her a ride there.
Here, take this too.
What's this?
Your father was holding it.
And this is where some more interesting things are revealed. So, if Harry Mason is Heather's dad, then who is Heather? Well, fortunately, Silent Hill 3 does a good job of explaining that for anyone who didn't play the first game. And in a way that's interestingly symbolic. Anything look familiar about this setup?
What's wrong?
Feeling sick?
My head's pounding like the worst hangover ever.
Maybe you're car sick.
No, I'm just trying to remember my childhood. Something terrible happened in Silent Hill 17 years ago. A woman named Dahlia. She tried to summon the ancient god of the town. She offered up her very own daughter.
That's crazy.
Maybe so, but it worked. The girl gave birth to a god. You see, that girl had special powers.
Powers?
Her classmates called her a witch. She could make things happen with her mind. She could kill people just by wishing for it. But in the end, that god was killed by a single person. My father, Harry Mason. I guess it wasn't much of a god if it could be killed by a human being. But I think Claudia's trying to do the same thing again. And I've been chosen as the sacrifice.
You've got some kind of power in you too?
After the god was killed, the girl reappeared. She was holding a baby in her arms. Before she died, she gave the baby to my father. He loved me just like I was his very own daughter. Even though he didn't know who or what I was. It was so sudden.
Another thing about this scene is that it shows us another side of Heather. She's pretty rough around the edges most of the time, but as soon as she lost the only person in the world who mattered to her, All that sass melted away, leaving this raw display of emotion. It reminds me a little bit of James. Entirely different situation, of course, but he's another character who doesn't show a lot of emotion until he's pretty much at the end of his rope.
I wanted you out of the way.
Then it all comes pouring out.
I wanted my life back.
And it's pretty heart-wrenching in both cases. Silent Hill 3 has great characters, and they're really what keeps the story going because there's only so much to the story itself. It's generally more simplistic and easier to follow than the first two games. Not that that's a bad thing, though. There's nothing wrong with having the occasional Silent Hill game that isn't a total mind-bender. Also, this is the one case where I approve of referencing the first game. It was the first time the franchise had done that, and they did a good job of not making it feel like they were rehashing anything. Maybe the story didn't need to be told, but it does add a little something to the whole story, and it gives it some nice closure at the end. Unlike Silent Hill Origins, which, while it was supposed to be a prequel, it seemed like it couldn't quite make up its mind about whether it was a new story or a retelling of the first game, and it felt like it was mostly made to cash in on the movie, which really did need to be made. But I digress. Heather, in particular, is an interesting character, if only because she's so different from the main characters from other Silent Hill games. If you think about it, there is a Silent Hill main character archetype. It's usually a good-looking young man in his early to late 20s. He's generally kind of shy and awkward, thoughtful and or introspective, usually kind, and tends to be protective of the female characters, or at least one of them. Henry is the most extreme example, but the others fit at least most of that description. Yes, even Alex the potty mouth.
You gotta be shitting me!
But Heather just totally flies in the face of that. She could not be any more different from those other characters. Aside from being female and really still a kid, she's crass, and at least in the beginning, she's superficial and basically self-centered.
I can't feel sorry for you because you dragged me into this.
She doesn't sound very likable, but somehow she is anyway. I think it's because a lot of us would like to have the kind of nerve she has. She's a badass, that's all there is to it.
Oh, really?
She was modeled after French actresses such as Charlotte Gainsbourg and Vanessa Paradis. There are some interesting preliminary drawings of her in the Book of Lost Memories. It doesn't look like they changed her look a whole lot through the process. Originally she was to be called Helen, but that name was deemed to be too old-fashioned, not a name you would expect a 17-year-old to have. So, at the last minute, they ended up giving her the same name as her voice actor, Heather Morris. Now, I've heard from many sources that she returned to voice Eileen Galvin in Silent Hill 4, but none of those sources are official, so it could just be a common misconception. If anybody knows for sure and has some kind of official source to back it up, please let me know. Every character in Silent Hill 3 has a corresponding tarot card. Heather's is the Fool. There's a quote in Lost Memories by creator Hiroyuki Owaku that says, "This card means departure, potentiality, and recklessness. I think that her recklessness in fighting against Claudia and, in a certain sense, her genuineness are applicable to the Fool."
Shut your stinking mouth!